What do I think about the Genius Act? What is the Genius Act? How do we make money trading the Genius Act? Those are topics that I'm going to answer in today's video. Before we get started, if you find my content to be useful, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on your notifications. Please give the video a thumbs up. It'll help us rate higher and I'll be able to reach more traders. I'm just trying to teach you a systematic trading approach. So, the Genius Act was passed last Friday by Congress, and in essence, the US government has created what they call a stable coin. These are cryptocurrencies that are backed with US dollar reserves. One thing that it does is it increases the demand for the US dollar. So it's good for the US government because now they found another way to leverage the dollar and to maintain its dominance as the world's reserve currency. 60% of foreign bank reserves are dollar denominated. So the US dollar is not going to lose that status anytime soon, as far as I'm concerned. BRICS countries were trying to organize and they were trying to offer an alternative to the US dollar, but I don't see that going very far at all, especially not with some of the woes that some of those central banks are having. In any event, it's good for the government because they're increasing the demand for US dollars. It is good to a certain degree for consumers because now they have another alternative, a safer alternative to purchase items. It gives the cryptocurrencies legitimacy because the government is backing them. So I see those as all positive developments. So there really isn't any downside to the act. It is a way for the government to regulate an industry, and they are planning on using that to control terrorism and all sorts of unscrupulous money laundering, drug trade. So there's that component to it as well. Now, the cryptocurrency stocks like Coin, I have that on my screen right now. You can see how that stock was in a nice tight compression right around AVWAP E, and then it exploded higher. Now, this is also when it was added to the S&P 500, so you can see how it took off, but it has continued to float higher with all of this news. Now, the way that you want to trade a stock like Coin, it's got some volatility. So when you have separation from the EMA 8 like this, you don't want to be buying it up in here. If you get in early, like in here, long green candle holds the top of that long green candle, you can consider getting in here. But once it rallies and distances itself from the EMA 8, now you've got to be in pullback mode, buy dips. And there's a nice opportunity there. And there's a nice opportunity there when it touches the EMA 8. And as soon as it starts to get distance from it, like it is right now, then you need to be a little careful with it and wait for it to come back to that EMA 8. Now, this could have been a bit of a sell the news event. You can see the price action on Friday. Stock gapped up on that news right away. So it was expected. And now you can see a sell the news decline in COIN on Friday. So let it come in. Let it touch that EMA 8. Let's go into the 15-minute chart on this. And remember, the way to buy a stock like this that's fairly choppy is if you buy breakouts like that breakout right there, here goes the stock. Oh my God, it's going higher. This is fantastic. And you buy it here, you've got these big dips that you have to weather. And a lot of traders can't weather them. They stop out of the trade feeling that, oh, gee, I got it wrong. And so now the stock rallies back and it looks like it's going to break out again. Hey, I think I'm going to buy some here. Look, it's getting through that previous high. This time for sure. And the stock waffles around, and now you get another big drop in it. Now you get stopped out again. So reverse that mentality. Okay, you want to buy dips and you want to sell, take profits into strength. So you're buying here, you're taking profits here. You're buying here, you're taking profits here. You're waiting for these dips. You're not buying that breakout. You're waiting for the dip. You buy here, you take profits here. So you've got to reverse that mentality. That's why all of your trades seem so hard. It's because you're swimming upstream. You're buying these breakouts. They don't have any follow through. And you've got these larger institutions who will try and flush out buyers on these breakouts, and then they bail, they lose money. Institutions come in, and this is where they're net buyers, and this is where they are net sellers. So that's what you have to do. That's the mentality. So I'm not going to highlight coin. I'm going to take a look at a couple of stocks that I highlighted recently. PENN. That was a short that I showed you, and that was last Sunday. So this was the price action going into Sunday, and this is what we had Monday morning when the market opened. You can see that the stock did pull back. Some opportunity to get short, make a little bit of money on it. There was some follow through on Tuesday. Again, a little pop up and an opportunity to short in here. And that's what I wanted to do is I'm highlighting stocks that I like on a day trading basis right now because I like keeping my trade duration very short term. Doesn't matter if they're longs or shorts. I'm looking to day trade. I will hold some overnights, and I'm going to have a really nice stock pick for you. A couple of stock picks actually towards the end of this video. So I'll show you a couple of longs that I like. So in any event, you've got this nice little pullback Monday, Tuesday, get another little pullback on Wednesday. So this is where you had to start taking profits on it. You've got this nice bullish hammer right here off of the recent low. Yeah, that's where you'd want to be getting out and taking profits and then sitting back and watching the stock to see what happens. We got a bounce on Thursday, no follow through, little pullback on Friday. So PENN is still a short that I like, and we'll look at that D1 chart, and you can see how it's been rejecting off of that 200-day moving average. So I don't want it to get through that 200-day moving average. If it does, then I'll set an alert. Tell me when PENN goes below the 200-day moving average. I want that alert because there's a chance that with this relative weakness that it will test that 50-day moving average, 100-day moving average down below. So I would keep an eye on that. TGT is a stock, a short that I highlighted in Wednesday's video. You can see how it's struggling to get through this horizontal resistance level. It's making lower highs, has not participated in the market rally. So that's why I like it as a short. And I did give you a long. NVDA hasn't done much. NVIDIA, I like the fact that they are now going to be able to sell chips to China, the H2O chips. So that should be good for business. And chip stocks have done fairly well with some earnings announcements coming out recently. So TSM was Taiwan Semiconductor was a company that announced earnings on Thursday morning and had an initial good reaction. You can see that gap up. Friday, it started to fill in some of this gap. So we'll see if semiconductor stocks still have some upside, but that was really good news for NVIDIA. And then I'm going to show you a couple of longs after we do some market research here. We're going to take a look and see what's been happening too. I've got it at the bottom of the screen. This is the S&P 500. I just wanted you to see what's happening to the average true range. And you can see how it's been dropping dramatically to where right now the average true range is about $5 or 50 S&P points, but these intraday ranges are getting very compressed. And so this is a gradual light volume float higher. Yes, the trend is up. I've been able to find opportunities on both sides, but I want to give you some longs because I've given you a few more shorts recently. So I see this as there's nothing really standing in the way of the market right now, and anything that might stand in the way of the market would have to be earnings related. Haven't really seen that yet. We've seen some pullbacks post earnings, but in general, companies have been beating. Earnings estimates have been lowered from 3 months ago, where they were projecting a 9.2% growth in S&P 500 earnings. Now analysts are expecting 5% growth. So the bar has been lowered. I believe 85% of the S&P 500 companies that have reported, which isn't many, I think it's maybe 20 or 30, there's about an 85% beat right now. So bank stocks released earnings. they've been pretty mixed. They haven't really moved a lot, and that's to be expected. So, the one thing that I do want to do is I want to watch what news we've got coming up this week. Well, I went through and I looked at for all the economic releases. There's nothing on the calendar this week that is worthy of mention. I think there might be like a couple of PMIs that are coming out. You've got some flash PMIs, durable goods on Friday, which is a very volatile number. So, not a lot happening this week. However, the following week is super busy from an economic release standpoint because we've got ADP, we have the jobs report on that Friday, we've got ISM manufacturing, ISM services, and then the really big news is we've got the FOMC statement that Wednesday. So we've got a ton of news packed in that week. Plus, we're going to hear from mega cap tech companies that week. So, nothing this week really in terms of economic releases, just a few minor ones. But we do have some earnings announcements. So, let's take a look and see who's on deck to report earnings this week. So, what I did was I went in to Option Stalker Pro and I looked for companies that had good option liquidity. So, these will be your larger companies. And I also looked for projected earnings that are today and out 5 days. And these are the stocks that came up. So as we go through the list, we can kind of see what the week might set up like. We've got COF, another bank stock, Decker, pretty volatile, Dow, that's an industrial stock. We've got Google, would be a major earnings announcement. IBM, very considerable. Intel, we've got LVS, not that significant. We have QS, which has been a really hot stock. So if you've been trading it, be aware that they're announcing earnings. Tesla and Texas Instruments. So those are fairly big tech names. And it's the week after where you start getting a lot more of the metas. I believe Apple, Amazon, Microsoft are going to report the week of the FOMC statement. So that's going to be a super busy week. I believe that how the market trades over the course of the next 2 weeks is going to determine market direction for August and September. I'm not expecting any move from the FOMC right now. Inflation ticked up a little bit on CPI. That's going to keep them sidelined. And what may weigh on the market as we head into August and September is a question of whether or not the Fed may cut rates in September. I don't think that they feel that they're in a position where they need to do that. So we could see some market jitters into August and September as we typically do. I'm not trading that right now. I want to wait for the news to come out. I want to see how these earnings reactions pan out in the market because we've got lower earnings expectations right now. And if we come in around those expectations, they're not that robust. And we could see a little bit of profit taking. Valuations right now are quite stretched. I'm going to remove the average true range from the chart right here so we can clean that up a little bit. And then we'll take another look at the technical side of it. Just know that these late volume floats higher can last for a very long time. And when they do correct, they correct pretty quickly because there's a lot of complacency with the market just floating higher. It almost becomes numbing. And then what you really, really want to watch for is a new high, a new all time high that leads to a severe gap reversal. And I mean, the selling pressure the whole day is very, very heavy. And by the time that low is put in, you may take out 4 or 5 days worth of upward price action. And that typically comes off of a gap up. It doesn't typically come off of a gap down. And what happens is that you finally reached a point where there's a lot of profit taking and a lot of aggressive sellers off of that high. And they're the ones that start the selling momentum. And once it starts to accelerate, it just builds on itself. So watch for that. Until we see anything like that, assume that we're going to continue to just float higher. So if I take a look at some stocks right now that I would like to be long, I'm going to go into a couple of searches. One of them is Green Royal Flush, and there are actually a lot of nice looking stocks. Hood has been on a power move higher. That's Robin Hood. Let's see what else has been. Schwab announced earnings last week. Nice breakout here. You've got RBLX. Roblox has been incredibly strong. Would I chase it here? No. There's your EMA 8. I would wait for a pullback to that EMA 8. You can see how the stock has been above it. And as soon as you get too far above it, like we are here, you're going to get a pullback to that EMA 8. You want that support to be confirmed, and that's where you want to be getting in. You don't need to be chasing up in here. You wait for that. Now you've got confirmation. You're back above the EMA 8. See how nicely that works? You're in complete control. So let it come in. Let's see what else we've got here. In fact, today's stock that I'm going to highlight is setting up well that way. Here you can see as soon as you get away from that EMA 8, wait for that pullback. Oh, the selling pressure is a little bit heavier. I don't want to enter here. A couple of long red candles. So you keep waiting. Now OKLO starts to find support at AVWAP-E. That's the red line. And now you're starting to lift off of that downward sloping trend line, breach the upside. This is where you can get in and you're close to that EMA 8, not up in here. So that's a nice looking stock, JPM, post earnings last week. You can see how it's still hugging that EMA 8 in here. It's digesting some of that news. So this may be a good entry point, and you can see this little gap in here that it's trying to fill from Friday. So not bad on JPM post earnings. CCJ, pretty good, another choppy stock, really commodity stock, and it's being driven right now by potential demand in uranium. So if I look at the heavy buying list here, I'm going to go down and highlight bull because I like that stock. I know it's come up in a couple of searches. There it is. I like this stock, and you can see kind of a cup and handle formation here. You can see a breakout to the upside. See, there's your cup, there's your handle. Beautiful breakout Friday. Look at that volume. Incredible volume all day long. So no, I would not buy this Monday. I would wait for a dip. And I want to see most of this move preserved. But yes, I want to buy a pullback. I don't feel like I'm chasing this stock. Why? Well, let's put the D1 up and let's zoom all the way out. This is an IPO from last April, and you can see it was up around $75. Way overvalued, sold off hard, but it sold off all the way down to about what, $10, $11, and now it's finally starting to get above the 50-day moving average. It even has a 50-day moving average now. So you can see that it's had nice little lift off in here. I think this stock has a lot of upside room, and this broker is actually building out a platform for cryptocurrencies. That's one of the reasons that Hood has been so strong. So I think if nothing else, it could get a lot of excitement from that alone. Now, I was long this stock back in here. I love this breakout right in here because I thought it was starting to lift off. And then lo and behold, the rug got pulled out from under me. And this was a secondary offering that I didn't see coming. And yes, untimely announcement. So I've had the stock on my radar. Excuse me. I like it in here. So I would be looking to buy any type of pullback on bull. And another stock that I'm going to be showing you is AEVA. This is a stock that I suggested selling out of the money puts on this one back in here when the stock was getting super elevated, a lot of momentum, distancing itself from the EMA 8. This price action told me this stock has long-term buyers and any pullback's going to be a buy. Let's sell some $30 puts. Then I had people asking me, do you still like it? Do you still like it? Well, yes, I did still like it. It was back in the $26, $25 range. So those $30 puts that we sold for $1.60 or more became in play. They were this $10 out of the money. The stock was at $40. We were selling the 30 puts for $1.60. I'd be a happy buyer of stock at 28.40. Well, as we got closer and closer to expiration last Friday, the stock started to find support above AVWAP-E. Wonderful. The stock, instead of being above EMA 8, was below EMA 8. Awesome. Really nice stuff. I am long the stock, but I'm not long it from that put assignment, which never happened. So my thought was I'd like to sell those and I want to acquire the stock at a good price. Well, they expired worthless, which is great because I generated about a 10% return on those in about 2.5 weeks or so. Awesome. That's great too. So I did want to net be long the stock. You can see a breakout above this downward sloping trend line, support above AVWAP-E, really nice volume starting to come in. It's just above the EMA 8, so I do not feel like I am chasing this stock. And if we take a look at the 15-minute chart, you can see how we've got nice volume coming in here. And we had some really decent volume on Friday. The market overall didn't do a whole lot of anything on Friday. There's your chart, opens on its high, sells off the rest of the day. So this is not a go-go market where there are a lot of buyers each and every day. We're seeing some profit taking. That's what's setting up trades on both the long and the short side. Do not buy gaps up to an all-time high. If I had one word of advice for you right now, don't do it, because there's a chance that one of these gaps higher could be that gap reversal that I've been telling you about. And our probability of making money on a gap up and go is low because of that profit taking. And the upside is pretty much exhausted from the time that you get that gap up. So the odds of a reversal are very high. Here, we didn't have a gap up and we had a nice run right out of the gate, but you still had plenty of time to be patient and have that VWAP test, higher low. All right, now we're convincingly through VWAP. This is where I can start considering getting long through the high of the day. I can add to my long position here. That's how you should be trading. But look at that gap reversal there. Here's another day of selling. There's another gap reversal. This is an all-time high. If you came in and you bought that right out of the gate and you played FOMO Joe, you paid a very hefty price. And that's the type of selling pressure that you're going to see off of a high like that. That's your profit taking. So don't chase gaps up. Wait for that bid to be tested. It's going to be tested. We're at an all-time high. When you come in, you test the bid and support has been confirmed. You're watching stocks for relative strength, and they're the ones where the market tests that bid and the market starts slipping and sliding and coming in, but not these stocks. They are holding strong as heck, and market red candle, stock green candle, bingo, that's relative strength. And if you start taking a look, this is the price action for this stock, relative strength, first half of the day, BULL was coming up on our relative strength searches, and that stock was really strong all day as well. And you can see that right here. Let's do an overlay of the S&P so you know exactly what you're looking for. SPY overlay. This is the gray line, is what the SPY is doing. Opens on its high, starts selling off. This stock opens close to its close, and it continues to grind higher when the market is coming in. Afternoon, market finds support, this gray line. What does the stock do? It was like throwing gasoline on the fire. Woof! Look at that stock take off on heavy volume. That's why I like bull for next week. I think this is a good entry point, good level to go in. Would I sell out of the money puts on it? Heck yeah, I did already sell some out of the money puts on it. So yeah, I like that trade as well. But I'm going to highlight AEVA as well. Again, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give this a thumbs up if you like the content. Trade well, and we will see you Wednesday. I'll try and do another recording then.
Thank you for watching this YouTube video. I'm Pete Stolzers, and I'm going to keep the trade ideas coming along with lots of education, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and please turn on your notifications so that you never miss another trade. If you like the content, please give it a thumbs up. I've loaded 2 other videos that I think you're really going to enjoy. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon.